Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, Cody. What is the most worthless food that you could discover while being trapped in Fromville that you just discovered growing on its own, and why is it lettuce?
I was going to say it has to be lettuce or cabbage.
Yeah, you might as well have just given them radishes.
Yeah.
Oh, we found these radishes. Who wants those? Not me. What are you going to do with lettuce? Oh, is there salad dressing that I haven't seen? Someone airdropping some salad dressing into Fromville? Kenny's way too happy about this.
Yes. Way too happy.
I'm assuming there was some other assorted vegetables, but the lettuce took center stage, you know.
I think there were beets.
Loaded with stuff that Cody is definitely not eating. Cody's starving in Fromville, right?
I would eat the lettuce, but I wouldn't be happy about it.
Cody's like, do we have any fries? Any French fries? Cheese sauce? No?
Like, can we fry these things and make them like fries?
Literally, if the diner had a nacho cheese dispenser, I'd be okay. I'd be like, yeah, give me that radish. I'm just going to douse it in the nacho cheese, and I'll be all right. I'm not losing weight in Fromville, but I'll be eating the nacho cheese. Hello. How are you? This is Pop Culture Pastor Watch-Alongs, and we are doing watch-alongs as we watch with you season 3 of From. Nobody ever says that, though, right?
Yeah.
It's just the song. There's no... Like, the big difference from Lost, you know, everyone makes a big deal about this, the relationship to Lost this show has with the same producers, but Lost always started with previously on Lost, you know? So there was like actually someone that said it, but this is just, it just shows you the previously on From.
They couldn't afford the voice actor guy.
No, and then at the end it was, you know, with the Lost logo. I can't make that noise either. This is not Lost. This is From. We're doing watch-alongs. And before we get to the recap, it's the segment that's taking the nation by storm. It is, oh my gosh, Cody, what am I watching? It's the What Am I Watching segment. Cody, what are your nominations for this week's What Am I Watching?
So what am I watching? First one, Fatima, well, however you pronounce her name.
We don't know, so we're just going to say both ways.
Yes. Like her eating all the spoiled rotten food.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You're pregnant, lady. But that could lead to something else.
Yeah. Well, you just explain what you got to explain, and we'll for sure we're getting to everything.
Just know she was devouring it like Ron Swanson at a steakhouse.
That was a messed up moment, man. Yeah, how on a scale of 1 to 10, like how much were you cringing?
I was at a 6, and it usually takes a lot for me to get past 5.
We've seen a lot of guts and innards on this show, and there was nothing more disgusting than that. I've never been more disgusted watching From than watching her dig into raw vegetables.
Like, ew.
And rotten ones.
Rotten raw vegetables.
Nope. That's where I draw the line. Okay, what was the other one?
The second one. So, reminder, like, there's the people in basically Fromville, and then there's the colony house.
Mm-hmm.
But yet everyone was united at the funeral.
Yeah.
Like, it was, what is going on here? Like, we had this moment of everyone was respectful and polite and was attending and was mourning with those that were mourning.
I mean, one episode ago, they were stealing all Tien Chen's food.
Yes.
Now you expect me to believe that even the grouchiest of the colony house people were down there being like, I just came to pay my respects. Get out of here. No way. That was a little made for TV-ish.
But a good moment.
It was good. It did make me feel good. That's the difference. Was it realistic? No. Did it make me feel good? Yes.
Yes. What am I watching? Those are my 2 nominations.
Was Tien Chen even that nice? She was
kind
of severe at times in the first couple seasons, I felt like.
It depends on who you were talking to or who she was talking to.
Yeah. I want to run off all our listeners by sullying the memory of the dead. So we should just move on. We should just move on into our recap of episode 2 of From. When last we left Fromville, and Boyd in particular, he was tied up and being forced to watch Tien Chen get flayed. Jade, this picks up right at the end of that. Jade barges into the barn and he asks Boyd what happened. And more importantly, why are you alive, bro?
That is the question.
Yeah. Which, you know, you can kind of see Jade's like, there's two things going on in his mind at once. Like, oh, this is horrifying. I knew I was going to see something horrifying, but wait a minute, dude. Why are you still here? He was not expecting that. We're given a look at Tien Chen's body. This show never misses a chance to bring the gore, by the way. Although it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. But they do like showing us, like in the very first episode, I remember how much that shocked me.
Well, with it being advertised as more of a horror genre show, I'm not shocked, especially since it's on like mainstream networks. Like you wouldn't get this on ABC.
Oh, no. Well, there's F-bombs alone.
Yeah, we dropped a couple this episode.
They're not as many, though.
Yeah.
It went down a little bit.
It got cut in half.
Boyd explains to Jade, they made me watch. This goes back to what we talked about in the last episode where the demons, monsters, whatever you want to call them, have seemingly switched missions here, especially as it pertains to Boyd.
I also wonder if that's because he had like the worms in him.
Yeah, are they afraid of him?
Like maybe he's a hybrid, and so like his death won't do anything, but we're trying to kill out all the human in him.
It is interesting, and we'll get back to his storyline later. But let's move on to Kenny, because I think that's what everybody's waiting for. And boy, they don't waste any time, because about as soon as that conversation between Boyd and Jade is over, Kenny and Jim come back into town, and they're absolutely glowing from their victory of finding these rogue crops that are seemingly going to solve the town's food crisis. You get the double knowing of you know he's about to be crushed, but so the viewers kind of mirroring the townsfolk who are all like sullen, and he's like smiling, going like, oh, look what I did, and you're just like, oh no, this is heartbreaking, and they have to break the news to him, and it sets up an Emmy moment for Kenny, played by Ricky He, who I thought was great in this episode.
He had to carry the full weight of the cringe of being like, I'm excited to, oh no.
Yeah.
Mom.
Yeah. So, well, in back-to-back episodes now, you've got these two actors, Harold Perrineau playing Boyd and Ricky He playing Kenny, where they're asked to let it slowly kind of be a wave that takes over you. So he's so happy. Boyd delivers the news, and we get to watch Kenny kind of slowly come to grips that he has now lost both of his parents in this awful place, a possible girlfriend, the girl he's crushing on, whose other girlfriend showed up, and he's now utterly alone. And that we get to see that kind of wash over him for a few minutes. As first he's like in denial, then he goes and yells at the house, and then finally into the diner. What'd you think about his work there? Like just this whole scene of him finding out.
You definitely knew he knew, but that reality he didn't want it to set in which plays out phenomenally. Especially considering you got the aspect of he saw what happened to his dad.
Yeah.
And so he's very familiar with how violent these others are, and him just kind of being in denial, going through the different stages of grief. Well, a few of them, not all of them, a few of them.
Give him time.
Yes.
Give him time.
But being able to come to terms with, she's not here.
Yeah. Yeah. Christy annoyingly comes in and tries to comfort him. I don't know. I don't know why it's annoying. I'm just kind of, I think she as a character annoys me, and I'm just sensing kind of maybe the collective from the fandom's annoyance with her. It's probably not the actress's fault. I still think it was a major, one of the things in the script, one of the things with the writing that I haven't liked was why even set up that they like each other at all and then bring her former girlfriend in from the real world. Like, that has not paid off in really any way, or why that would have happened, other than it just messes with Kenny.
But it could pay off if we find out how people from the real world enter into the Fromverse.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. It just seems like a little much, and boy, it all pretty much lands on Kenny. So I was annoyed with Christy the whole time. She doesn't really help him in any way. And then after she leaves, because Kenny kind of sends her out, like, I'm good. Just let me be alone for a little bit. The diabolical jukebox in the diner starts playing Celebration by Kool and the Gang, which that's just wrong, man. That's just wrong. Also, Kool and the Gang, very big in hell, apparently. I didn't know Kool and the Gang were so big there.
Leah was like, oh, not that song. And I'm like, yeah, that song.
What's I would like to, we need a list of all the songs that have been played in the diner. Is that one of the newer ones? Is that one of the newest songs they played? Because they're usually pretty classic-y.
I feel that there's been songs around that time period.
Have they played in the 80s?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out if that was the newest song that they played. I don't know why it would be interesting. It just says something in my brain thinks that should be interesting.
Maybe it's a connection point.
Maybe. So Kenny's only ask to Christy is that Christy play mortician and make his mom look somewhat normal, I guess.
You're asking her to do a miracle.
Yeah. Right? That's the worst place to be a mortician, Fromville.
Yep.
Could you make... Well, never mind. I'm not going to say that. It's too disgusting. Any takeaways from those first couple scenes for you? Boyd discussing with Jade what happened, and then Kenny's finding out.
I think the big takeaway is they're not after everyone all at once, at least. And that we need to figure out how Boyd is immune to their targeting him physically. Emotionally, they're all about bringing him down, but physically, they're like, whatever, buddy, you can watch.
Yeah, the monsters have seemed to gone from 80s horror villain, which is just chaos and I'm coming after you, to something different now where they're trying to psychologically traumatize Boyd in particular, and possibly Kenny, I suppose. That might have been the unspoken trauma that they wanted to instigate, but... the next scene, we have Boyd and Kenny, and Boyd finds Kenny in the bar, stocking up on the hard alcohol, not to drink, but to satisfy a different thirst, the thirst of vengeance, Cody.
Yeah! I was with him.
We are licensed ministers. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. He's planning to use the alcohol to set the creatures on fire in the tunnels that they found out where they resided during the day in, what was that, last season?
Yes. My concern was if they're not all in the tunnels, then we're in the tunnels and it's getting darker earlier, and you might then be trapped in there with them.
Unsaid little part of winter, right?
Yes.
Which they haven't really discussed, have they?
I think they brought up that it's been not staying as light out for as long.
I need to know the dynamic of all this. Like, is this place on Earth? Is there a planet tilting on its axis, or is it all just controlled? I need to know. So that's his plan. He's going to go down there and burn him alive. And Boyd, perhaps because he's sensing there's not going to be any talking Kenny down this time, he agrees to go with him to bring vengeance down upon the monsters.
Yeah.
Jewel style from Pulp Fiction as he lays his vengeance upon thee. They go out to the entrance to the tunnels. Boyd tells Kenny that he was present while his mom was killed, which Kenny didn't know up to this point. And he tells him her last words, which of course were, he'll be alone now. Please take care of him. All the sadness, all the feels.
Which you see him muttering at the very beginning of this episode, but like it's not in English, so you don't know what he's saying. And
He's
I'm
trying
like,
to remember it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I'm like, either she has said this or these demon creatures have gotten to him.
Or he's speaking in tongues. Just throw in the Pentecostal view in there.
Potentially.
Could be. No, he's trying to, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, he's trying to remember this because it's not, he doesn't speak, what is it, Chinese? Was that what it was? I don't know if they said
I don't
where they're
know.
from. I don't remember. Whatever, he's speaking a language he doesn't normally speak, so he's trying to remember it by repeating it over and over again, which I identified with. He tells him this, and then Boyd and Kenny have a moment. And I think this probably fixes the rift that has been present between Boyd and Kenny for a while.
If I had been Kenny, though, I would have arrived at the same place of Jade. How did you survive?
Well, it's interesting he does not ask him that.
Because that would have been my logical conclusion. Like, you tell me this heartfelt message, but quite literally, how did you get to hear it and tell the tale?
Is the implication you think that it's said off camera? Or do you think Kenny is just so in such shock he hasn't thought of it yet and it's going to be a problem later?
I'm going to presume a problem later. Otherwise, everything's water under the bridge, and good for you, Kenny.
Yeah. Let's move on to Tabs in the real world, which sounds like a movie. That should be a movie. But Tabitha wakes up on Victor's dad's couch after falling unconscious outside Victor's dad's house. Not
the place to do
nothing
that.
shady going on here. She's been injured and she just was lacking energy, I guess.
She needs some soup.
Although I'm not sure that that's for sure yet. I don't know if we can trust all this yet. Is this real? Is this in the real world? What's happening here? Is it possible that we're dealing with two different dimensions here? And that this dimension, wherever she's at, is not the real world, but it is a place where they're trying to get her to accept a mission to take back.
I could see it being another dimension area that's not part of where she's originally from. And they know a lot of details about her and or the missing people, but they don't know, or they are not letting on that they know how these missing people got to Fromville.
Yeah. So she passed out on Henry's front porch. He brought her inside, suspicious about how Tabitha got her hands on his son's lunchbox. He's kind of watching over her. He's got his gun on him, and she agrees to tell him everything. Finally, he kind of calms down a little bit, and he offers her some food. She gulps it down because she's probably hungry. Tabitha starts telling Henry that his son is alive and is trapped in this mysterious town. She just kind of like vomits out the truth. Maybe that's not the best course because he's like, okay, well, I called the police like 10 minutes ago.
No cops.
No, not the popo. This, of course, freaks out Tabs, and she decides to try just one last time to try and to convince him, and by using the internet. And she punches up this article about her family being missing. For some reason, I'm sure it's just like, this is always a problem on television. They can't use a real website. Like, they'd have licensing issues, I'm sure. But it looks so fake. Like, this looks like the oldest. This looks like they're in internet 1998.
I was going to say, I felt like this was the Canadian version of the internet in the late 90s.
Yeah, like, it looks bad, but that's what she shows him. This freaks him out even more because he thinks she's some kind of warlock or something. There's like, well, you're smart. I don't know how you know all this, but he's like clearly thinking she's insane. He doubles down on, by this time they can hear the police sirens. She starts just like kind of desperately stumbling over words ahead. And finally she gets out. She needs to save the children. Right as Henry's about to leave the room to go receive the police, he reacts. And then we hear Henry dismissing the popo.
I'm like, why would you do this?
Because she said something he clicked on.
Well, I'm like, you could have said, I got her up here. Let me have 10 more minutes.
So we agree he is acting strangely, though. That none of this really makes sense. I think people that think so, you're along for the ride. Because you think she's in the real world and that maybe real information is being found. I'm just dubious.
Especially considering I remember a show called Lost.
Yeah. Henry comes back into the room after he's dismissed the popo, recalls that his wife had been uttering about saving the children as well and a tower before she disappeared. Tabs tells him about the Kui kids and the boy in white, and Henry takes her to the basement where there's just treasure trove of paintings.
This also nearly was What Am I Watching nomination. Like, Tabs, don't go into the creepy old man's basement.
Yeah, I was the same way. I'm like, why are we going into the basement? I wouldn't go into the basement. You couldn't pay me if I'd been where they'd been for however long, you couldn't pay me $1 million to go into any creepy old man's basement.
Especially considering he's not fully trusting of you.
Yeah, he seems off, dude. There's something off about this guy. She, the wife, has made all these paintings. A lot of them depict the kids that she's seen. We also hauntingly kind of discover that many others before Tabitha and Victor's wife had tried and failed to save the children. That, not Tabitha and Victor's, not Henry's wife, not Victor, excuse me. Tabitha and Henry's wife had tried to save the children. Nobody has been successful. That's what Henry says. And we find out that he kind of pieces it together for her. Well, I guess you've been chosen now, which is also suspicious. Although this dude just fully in on the story now. When before he was like, you're crazy. Now he's like, well, I guess you've been chosen now. Well, isn't that convenient? Tabitha's next in line. Regardless of what we think, that's the information. She is chosen to be the one that saved the kids. Thoughts overall on that story?
Hey, how we know the kids are real?
Because they say Kui.
Like, for all I know, these are demons. And why are we trying to save the demons?
Yeah, it seems like this show's done such a good job of putting us in this awful, terrible place where not to trust anything that every time we get actual information, I don't trust it.
How's this a mission? How's this a mission?
Let's go to some of the bonus storylines. Donna and Boyd have this kind of interaction, which is a pretty good scene. Donna is mad that Boyd would risk people for the livestock. Cody, do you think Boyd should have shown more discretion and caution? Or do you think he did the right thing?
I don't know if you have everyone go out. I think if he was so feeling called.
Yeah, why didn't he just go by himself?
Either he goes by himself or other people that are noticing feeling called. Like, okay, we got to go out, save the livestock because we won't have any food whatsoever. Because literally, without this magical crop that no one knows about, everyone and their mom's dying because there's no real food.
Yeah. Also, if we go back a minute to when we were talking about Boyd and Kenny, does Boyd agreeing to go out on a suicide mission with Kenny, is that a little diabolical? Boyd must know that they're not going to kill him. He's going to have to watch Kenny die if they get caught.
I think he's more thinking along the lines of, I have to be there with Kenny. Yeah. Like, I've let him down too many times, had too much conflict.
He's in shock too, right?
Yes.
He doesn't know what he's doing, I think. So Donna gets really mad at Boyd and then pulls this 180 in the middle of the scene. And we're, Cody, it's real theory time. I have a real theory.
Oh, snap.
You ready for this?
Yes.
All right. So Donna is angry. She's losing her temper. She's going off on Boyd. And then she pulls this 180 where she's like, you know what? You're doing your best. You did what you thought was right. Like, it was weird. I was so unexpected, and it made me think of something. And I immediately went to this story in the Bible. All right?
Okay.
There's a story there where Jesus is led by the Spirit out into the wilderness to be tempted. Note that the wilderness that is discussed in this story in the Bible would be about as far outside of civilization as one could get in first century Judah, okay? It's a place where no one else would be except for wild things. Okay? Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. Okay. Satan meets him there to do the tempting. Now, what's interesting to me, Cody, is that Satan, the father of lies, in this story tempts Jesus with the truth. His whole goal in this story is to convince him that he is who he is and that he should take care of himself, right? Save yourself. And I find it interesting. It struck me that when Donna is super angry with Boyd, she catches herself midway through the scene and instead works to build Boyd back up in the name of community. That's why she's mad at him, because he didn't think about the community. He thought about being the hero, right? Oh, he didn't put it together. It's like, yes, they have food, but what are you trying to save food for if we lose you? You're important to the community. They're already reeling. Meanwhile, I thought about why did she pull this 180 and why is it so noticeable? Because in Fromville, if Fromville is hell, Cody, then biblically, it stands to reason that the goal of the demons and whoever's in charge of this terrible, terrible place would be to get the prisoners, the Fromvillians, to not turn on each other per se, but to get them to simply think about themselves and destroy community. After all, if you could sum up the Bible in one word as far as what God's objective is with it, it would probably be community. That's the whole point of the Bible, is God wants community with you. So if we think about it in those terms, the only reason I bring this up is to bring this up as how I was thinking about it. The way they save themselves is by community, and the demons, the monsters, whatever you want to call them, are constantly trying to rip away at that fabric.
Not bad, although...
Yeah!
Like, I might say that, like...
You might say, like, you're going to disagree with me. We got to move on. Let's move on. No, go ahead.
That I think that she could have also done her 180 because part of his intention was, like, we're all going to die if there's no livestock because there's no fresh vegetables or fruit anymore. We have to have this meat. She knows that things are at their most bleakest right now, and the only thing that they really do have is each other, and so she sees the rock and the hard place that he's at, and she pours into him.
Yep.
I actually don't think Fromville might not be as bad as we're painting it out to be. That maybe it's just that we are separated from the place that we're used to, even though it might have been toxic as all get out, because everyone's story before sounded rough, that maybe we are just longing for the pain and suffering we're used to and not seeing this as a new start, new opportunity.
Yeah, interesting theory. Boyd and Ellis checks in with his father, discovers that Boyd's now planning to catch one after the stunt with Kenny ends. Boyd is now set that he's going to catch on one of these things. That is what it is. I don't know that was particularly a surprising development because Boyd's had some interaction with him now, and he probably thinks that's something they could do. Ellis, however, has bigger problems. Namely, his preggers girlfriend is eating rotten vegetables. Ew! She's losing teeth. Something sinister is afoot. But Christy's girlfriend, who's allegedly in the medical profession, is now clearly in a supernatural place and looks over her and says, "Nope, ship shape. You're good." Wait, what? She's losing teeth.
Okay, so as soon as that happened, I'm like, I've seen this in other movies. That the pregnant individual loses teeth. And
okay.
Usually they can point out, so there's two potential things that happen. One is like there's this vitamin deficiency and you're in a high time of stress. Teeth actually do fall out.
Ooh, no way.
But in horror, it tends to be some evil supernatural child is within you.
Yeah.
That's where it goes.
This is
usually.
my concern, dude. Yeah, I'm still a little shocked that Christy's just like, nope, or Christy's girlfriend, I forget her name.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're good.
So there was a new horror movie with Sydney Sweeney where she was a nun at a convent.
Sydney who? Who's that?
Sweeney.
I'm just messing with you.
Yes. But she gets pregnant immaculately and like everyone's like, oh my goodness, how is this happening? And then
she starts losing teeth.
She did lose like a couple teeth, I think. So, yes.
Yeah. She takes her home. Fatima slyly starts eating rotten vegetables. And this clinches it, right? She's either turning into a monster, she's having a monster baby, or both. And I'm freaked out.
Demon baby!
This has become the scariest storyline for me. Probably some residual childhood memories of me watching V as a kid, which I shouldn't have. But oh my goodness, this storyline's freaking me out. And Fatima is, she's either a monster, she's having a monster baby, or both. We go back to Jim and fam. It's not going well for Jim. He lost his wife, and he gets back and he gets blasted by daughter Julie.
His kids, I'm over them.
I mean, it's sort of fair that he took off. He thought it was on him to go find his wife, when usually leaving the town at night means certain death.
Yes.
And leaving your children, that seemed a bit irresponsible. She may have a point, but he takes it pretty well.
He was very mature, which is kind of out of character for him.
Well, he had a realization, right?
Yes.
It was real. His realization with Kenny, this was dumb. I shouldn't have done this. He appears to have turned a corner. So he allows her to blow off steam. She leaves angrily, but not before she tells him to get his act together. He appears to agree. She leaves. The phone rings, which is eerie. Jim answers, and surprise, it's the child he and Tabitha lost in the real world. That's quite the cliffhanger.
It is, which then leads you to, what is this place?
Yeah, exactly. You never know if anything's real. Is this just a demon monster thing's messing with him? Exactly. What's going on? I saved the very end of the scene with Tabitha and Henry because I wanted to talk about it here at the end. With Victor's dad sharing the words of his long-lost wife to Tabitha regarding Fromville. She painted everything she saw after taking acid, by the way, which I like to point out because I thought it was funny.
Drugs!
Hold on to that. After taking acid, she painted all these things. That's when she started hearing the voices. Many places familiar to Fromvillians. Now I want to tell you, these are the words that he uses. Victor's dad apparently trying to quote her. He says this. She said it was a place that was everywhere, but you couldn't find it if you tried. Somewhere you could stumble into from anywhere, but never just find a way to leave. She said there were people there, people who were lost and afraid, who found themselves living inside of a nightmare that they couldn't escape, fighting a battle they knew they couldn't win. She said they were holding on to hope, and when that hope was gone, they held on to each other. It's time for my crackpot theory. Crackpot theory, Cody!
From theory, I don't know.
We don't have a name for it yet. We're just calling it crackpot theories. But it struck me how what he was saying was almost poetry. It's like it's like a long run-on sentence.
Well, she's a hippie.
But it had a poetic thing to it. I will now read you the lyrics to Hotel California by the Eagles. Welcome to the Hotel California. Such a lovely place. Such a lovely face. Plenty of room at the Hotel California any time of year. You can find it here. Mirrors on the ceiling, pink champagne on ice. And she said we're all just prisoners here of our own device. And in the master's chambers, they gathered for the feast. They stab it with their steely knives, but they just can't kill the beast. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the night man. We are programmed to receive. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. Cody, is this whole show an allegory for drug addiction?
Potentially. Or if we're going with the government conspiracy theory, that somehow this is a government thing, when the government was testing out the effects of psychedelics and LSD, because that's a known thing, especially the FBI. Maybe they learned that people tap into extra senses and go places that you can't see, but are actually there.
Yeah.
They get to see the unseen realm.
You're saying there's a chance.
There is.
Crackpot theory confirmed. All right, what's good? What was good for you in this episode, Cody?
I actually did really like that funeral scene. That like everyone was like, okay, there's been enough chaos and pain and.
Well, and the way they played him talking, Henry talking, and kind of switched back and forth, that was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
And it made you feel like what he was saying was all that much more important. What else? Anything else?
I really did like the dynamic between Boyd and Kenny.
Yeah, that was what I have written down here. The acting, I think, has gotten better collectively as the series has gone on. I wasn't always enamored with the acting as a group through the first season or so, first season and a half. Obviously, this episode is carried by Harold Perrineau again, who, like, can we non-jokingly say he should be considered for an Emmy? I mean, his work just in the first 2 episodes has been great. Ricky He was fabulous this episode. We already talked about that. David Alpay as Jade is great. Any scene he's in, I'm focused.
He's there for the dressing of the body.
Yeah.
And like he's actually kind of helpful.
Yeah.
And sharing wisdom nuggets along the way.
And Elizabeth Saunders as Donna, like I said, she only gets that one little scene, but the heel turn, the 180 she kind of pulls in that scene, which we're left to debate about, was that just her coming to her empathy or what's going on there? But it was done in such a way that I took notice. I was like, oh man, this is a great scene too. So I think the acting has been really good so far in the first couple episodes. Anything not so good?
I mean, I don't need to see people eating raw vegetables that are rotten.
Don't ever show us that again. I think they're probably going to show it again.
Yeah, since that seems to be the only thing she can keep down.
I have here in my notes, and this is what I would say is not so good if it continues. I don't think they can drag out Tabitha's story in the quote-unquote real world too long.
No.
I think dragging it out all season would be a mistake. I'm kind of the feeling that, like, she found out some stuff, bring her back. Like, I don't know how they do that. I'm just saying.
Or send her somewhere else.
That would be crazy and very Lost-like. All right. This week's Rip. Bet you thought I wouldn't have one. You're like, who died?
I can't think of them.
We're gathered here today to memorialize Fatima's digestive system, which is just now absolutely wrecked by rotten roughage. We had one little thing in the bathroom where the colony house people were arguing about the bathroom, but now Fatima's not just puking. I mean, now I don't even want to know what's happening coming on the other end. Woo! Rotten roughage? Nuh-uh. How many rotten radishes are you giving this out of 10 this episode?
I'll go 7.5.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as good as last week, but I still thought it was really good. I'm going to give it an 8.
Sounds on par.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch next week's. By the time this comes out, the next week's episode
is already out.
Will be out. So, like, look, we're not trying to win you over with like right after the day after it premieres to try and be the first ones out there. We like to recap and have fun, take some time to think about the episode. And if you like that too, if you like to have fun and to take some deep dives, keep listening, subscribe, share this pod with your loving friends.
And if you have any conspiracies, please let us know.
Conspiracies. All right, Fromville. We will see you next week.